Catherine, the Princess of Wales, received the news that she was pregnant with her fourth child. But instead of unbridled joy, the doctors delivered a sobering warning: the risk of premature birth was extremely high. Amid the glow of Kensington Palace and the relentless curiosity of the media, she chose silence. Each day spent in the hospital was a battle against fate. Then came a fateful night. At just 28 weeks, Catherine was rushed into surgery. Baby Eleanor was born so tiny she broke hearts cradled in an incubator. But then something no one dared hope for happened. A true miracle unfolded. A light drizzle fell on the cobblestone streets around Kensington Palace, where warm golden light spilled through the tall windows. Inside a cozy sitting room with a crackling fireplace was where Catherine, Princess of Wales, sat quietly in an armchair, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea long gone cold. Her gaze drifted lost in a haze of thoughts, as if searching for an anchor amidst the storm of emotions swirling within her. It was an early autumn day, the air in London carrying its signature crisp chill. Catherine had just returned from the hospital after a routine checkup. The lingering effects of abdominal surgery earlier that year still left her more fatigued than usual. Her health, though slowly improving, felt like a fragile thread, liable to snap with the slightest strain. But today the doctors didn't just talk about old scars. They delivered news that made her heart pound with both joy and trepidation. She was pregnant. For the fourth time. "Congratulations, Your Royal Highness," the lead doctor, a middle-aged woman with a warm, steady voice, said with a smile. But the smile faded as she set the file down on the table, her expression turning grave. "However, I must be frank. This pregnancy, it won't be easy. Given your current health, the risk of premature birth is very high. We can't even guarantee that the baby will be safe." Catherine felt her chest tighten. The words, delivered with the careful precision of an experienced physician, cut through her like icy blades. She nodded, maintaining the calm exterior that had become second nature after years under public scrutiny. But inside she was screaming. Joy, yes, but the fear was greater, a dark shadow swallowing the spark of light that had just flickered in her heart. Back at the palace, she didn't rush to tell William. She needed time to face this truth alone. Sitting by the fire, she placed a hand on her stomach, where a tiny life was growing, as fragile as a flame in the wind. "You'll be okay, won't you?" she whispered, unsure if she was asking herself or the unborn child. The only reply was the silence of the room. William entered, his rugged charm intact after a long day of meetings and charity events. He still wore his navy suit, though his tie was loosened and his blonde hair was slightly tousled from the wind. Seeing Catherine sitting there motionless, he instantly knew something was wrong. "Kate!" He called, his voice low but laced with concern. He knelt beside her, placing a hand on hers. "What's wrong? What happened?" Catherine looked up, her blue eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She managed a faint smile, trying to mask her fear. I'm pregnant, Will." William blinked, stunned. Then a radiant smile broke across his face, his eyes lighting up the room. "Really? Oh, Kate, that's wonderful." He pulled her into a tight embrace, as if trying to share his strength with her. But as he let go, he saw her face didn't hold the same unreserved joy he expected. "What's wrong? Is something off?" She took a deep breath, struggling to keep her voice steady. The doctor said, "This pregnancy is very risky. I could lose the baby, Will. Or even I might not be safe." Her words hit like a sledgehammer. William fell silent, his hand tightening around hers. He didn't speak immediately, just looked into her eyes, searching for a glimmer of hope, a sign that everything would be all right. But he saw in her gaze that this time they were facing a challenge greater than anything they'd ever known. "We'll get through this," he said at last, his voice hoarse but resolute. "I'll protect you both, I promise." Catherine nodded, but inside her fears churned like waves. She knew this joyful news carried not just hope, but a battle she and William would have to fight against fate and against the expectations of an entire kingdom watching their every move. The room fell quiet again, save for the soft patter of rain against the windows, a gentle reminder that life, no matter how regal, was always fraught with uncertainty. Kensington Palace, usually alive with the buzz of receptions and the laughter of 3 children, now carried an eerie stillness. Night had fallen, and in the master bedroom, The soft glow of a crystal bedside lamp barely illuminated Catherine's face, revealing the weary but resilient lines of her expression. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly as if holding on to something fragile that might slip away. William stood by the window, his back to her, his broad shoulders still under the faint moonlight. He gazed out at the dark garden where Catherine's beloved roses swayed silently in the breeze. But his mind was elsewhere, wrestling with questions, choices, and a fear he'd never dared voice to anyone but her. "We have to decide, Kate," he said at last, his voice low and heavy, each word seeming to push through an invisible barrier. "We can't keep putting it off." Catherine drew a deep breath, feeling her chest constrict. The decision William referred to was no small matter. In the British royal family, a princess's pregnancy was a national event announced early and greeted with public joy and anticipation. But this time, everything was different. Their happy news came with a dark shadow, the risk of losing the baby or worse, jeopardizing Catherine's own health. Announcing it now would mean inviting the world into their private struggle, with prying eyes, sensational headlines, and endless whispers. "I don't want them to know," Catherine said, her voice soft but firm. If the worst happens, I don't want the whole country looking at us with pity. I couldn't bear it, Will." William turned, his eyes filled with pain, but also deep understanding. He crossed the room and sat beside her, his warm hand enveloping hers. "I know, but if we keep it secret, there'll be questions. The press won't let it go. They'll speculate, they'll dig. You know how they are." She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. She knew all too well the cost of living in the spotlight. Every gesture, every absence could spark hundreds of articles. But this time, she didn't have the strength to face it all. "I just want a little privacy, just this once, so we can focus on the baby and ourselves without worrying about the whole world watching." William fell silent, weighing her words. He understood her reasons, but he also knew the cost of silence. The royal family had traditions, expectations, that even he, a man who often pushed against outdated rules, couldn't entirely ignore. If they kept this secret and the truth later came out, the public might feel betrayed. But looking into Catherine's eyes, eyes that now belonged not just to a princess, but to a mother trembling with worry for her unborn child, he knew he couldn't deny her. "All right," he said, his voice gentle but certain. "We'll keep it quiet. Only family and our closest circle will know. I'll make sure no one in the palace lets it slip." Catherine leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling a fraction of her burden lift, if only for a moment. But her tears still fell silently, soaking into his shirt. "Thank you," she whispered. I just want to protect our baby. I'm so scared, Will. So scared." William held her tighter, hiding the ache in his own heart. He kissed her hair, murmuring, "I'm here. I won't let you face this alone." That night they lay side by side, sleepless, holding hands in the dark. The decision was made, but both knew the road ahead would be far from easy. They had chosen to guard their secret to shield their unborn child, but the cost of that silence would only be revealed with time. Outside London slept, unaware that within Kensington Palace a story of tears and hope was quietly beginning. St. Mary's Hospital, a quiet corner where neon lights flickered through long corridors, became Catherine's reluctant sanctuary in the months that followed. Her private room, adorned with fresh flowers and soothing landscape paintings, couldn't mask the antiseptic smell or the steady beeping of monitors. Catherine lay in bed, one hand resting lightly on her stomach, her weary eyes fixed on every tiny movement of the child within her. Each day she counted every breath, every moment, as if time itself were a delicate gift. The pregnancy already flagged as high risk forced Catherine into the hospital early. Doctors insisted on complete bed rest, urging her to avoid all stress, an almost impossible task given her circumstances. The press, though unaware of her condition, never stopped probing. Articles speculating about the Princess of Wales's unusual absence began to surface, with headlines like, "Where is Catherine resting?" or "What is the royal family hiding?" Whenever William brought a newspaper, Catherine would glance at it briefly before turning away, trying to block out the whispers creeping into her mind. William, as both husband and father, became the family's rock. He juggled time between the hospital, Kensington Palace, and unavoidable royal engagements. Every morning he arrived at Catherine's side, bringing a small bouquet of daisies, her favorite for their simplicity, and a smile he hoped could ease the worry in her eyes. "How are you today, love?" he asked, his voice soft, though he himself was exhausted. "I'm okay," Catherine replied, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She knew he was trying, and she tried for him too. But the truth was, every twinge of pain, every ultrasound served as a reminder that their child hung in the balance between life and loss. "The doctors say the baby's still fighting. They're strong, aren't they?" Like their mother, William said, taking her hand, his fingers interlocking with hers in a silent vow. But as he turned away, she caught him biting his lip, his eyes briefly red. He didn't want her to see his vulnerability, but Catherine knew he was just as scared as she was. At home, their 3 children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, sensed something was off, though they were too young to grasp the full truth. William spent every evening with them, playing reading bedtime stories and answering their innocent but piercing questions. "What's Mummy doing at the hospital?" Daddy Charlotte asked one night, her big eyes full of curiosity. William smiled, brushing her hair. "Mummy's looking after a special gift for our family, but she needs lots of rest, so we have to be good to help her get better. Okay?" Charlotte nodded, but her eyes remained questioning. William hugged her close, hiding the feeling of his heart being squeezed. He wasn't just protecting Catherine, but shielding the children from worries they shouldn't yet bear. In public, William remained the perfect Prince of Wales, a dazzling smile, eloquent speeches, and unwavering dedication to charity work. But the moment he stepped out of the spotlight, he hurried back to the hospital where Catherine waited. Their moments together, even if just sitting in silence, holding hands or chatting about trivial things, became the only strength carrying them through those fragile months. One afternoon, as rare London sunlight streamed through the hospital window, Catherine gripped William's hand, her voice trembling. "Do you ever think, if we lose this baby, I might never forgive myself?" William shook his head, squeezing her hand tightly. "Don't say that, Kate. You're doing everything you can. The baby knows that, and I know that." He leaned down, kissing her forehead, trying to give her the faith he himself was struggling to hold on to. Those months, though filled with exhaustion and anxiety, also showed Catherine and William that their love, tested by countless trials, was strong enough to withstand any storm. In that small hospital room, amid the beeping machines and nurses' footsteps, they found a deeper connection than ever, not as a prince and princess, but as 2 ordinary people fighting together for their family. October nights in London brought a biting cold, as if the city itself held its breath. In a special ward at St. Mary's Hospital, soft lamplight fell on Catherine's pale face. She lay in bed, her hands clutching the thin blanket, struggling to breathe evenly, as waves of sharp pain surged through her. Doctors and nurses moved swiftly around her, their voices low but urgent, like discordant notes in a tense symphony. The pregnancy had reached its 7th month, but the baby, the child Catherine and William had prayed for daily, had decided to arrive far too soon. William stood by her bedside, holding her hand tightly, his eyes never leaving her face. The suit he'd worn to an afternoon meeting was still on, but his blonde hair was disheveled and his eyes were red from worry and sleeplessness. "You can do this, Kate," he whispered, his voice trembling, but striving for strength. "The baby can too. You're both so strong." Catherine nodded faintly, but the pain forced her to bite her lip, sweat beading on her forehead. She wanted to believe him, to trust that everything would be okay, but fear screamed in her mind. She'd been here before, in a cold hospital room, feeling the fragility of a tiny life slip away forever. The pain of a previous miscarriage, a secret she and William had shared with no one else, now loomed like a specter. "Will," she gasped, her voice breaking. "If the baby doesn't—" "Don't!" William interrupted, his tone firm but filled with love. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers, their breaths mingling. "Don't think that. The baby will be fine. You'll be fine. I'm here, Kate. I'm right here." But words couldn't stop the harsh reality. Minutes later, the lead doctor entered, her face grave. "Your Royal Highness, we need to take you to the operating room now. The fetus is in distress, and we must act quickly." William's heart seemed to stop, but he nodded, forcing calm for Catherine's sake. He kissed her hand once more before the nurses wheeled her away, his eyes following until the operating room doors closed. The hours that followed felt like a lifetime. William sat in the waiting area, hands clasped, head bowed. He didn't pray like a prince with grand words or formal rituals. He muttered quietly as a father and husband, begging anyone listening to protect the woman he loved and the child he'd yet to meet. The hospital corridor was silent, save for the ticking clock and distant footsteps of staff. Every small sound made him flinch, as if it signaled news to come. Finally, the operating room doors opened. The doctor approached, her face tired, but her eyes carrying a faint glimmer of relief. "Your Highness, the baby has been born. It's a girl, but she's very weak, born at 28 weeks. She's been taken to the neonatal intensive care unit. The princess is stable, but she needs rest." William nodded, feeling as if one weight had lifted from his chest only for another to settle in. A girl, their daughter, but fragile, vulnerable, fighting for life. He was led to the recovery room where Catherine lay, eyes closed, her face pale but peaceful. He sat beside her, taking her hand, and waited silently for her to wake. When Catherine opened her eyes, her gaze found William instantly. "The baby?" she whispered, her voice weak but urgent. William smiled, though tears mingled with the expression. "It's a girl, Kate. She's in intensive care. She's fighting." Catherine closed her eyes, a tear rolling down her cheek. She nodded as if trying to accept the reality. Then she pulled William close, trembling in his arms. "I can't lose another," she whispered, her voice breaking, as if speaking more to herself than to him. William held her tightly, feeling the pain she carried, the pain of losses, never spoken aloud. He knew she was thinking of the miscarriage before, a scar they'd buried deep, hidden from the world. "You won't lose her," he said, his voice rough. "We won't lose her, I swear." That night in the cold hospital room, they held each other, saying nothing more. Outside, the royal family had locked down all information, ensuring not a whisper reached the public. But in Catherine and William's hearts, a small flame still burned, however faint, a flame of hope and love. St. Mary's Hospital, though nestled in bustling London, felt like a world apart where time seemed to stand still. In the neonatal intensive care unit, a tiny incubator became the heart of Catherine and William's every hope and fear. Inside, their baby girl, yet to be named, known only by tender nicknames like Little Princess or Tiny Warrior, lay so small she seemed she might vanish. Tubes and monitors enveloped her, each faint breath, a miracle they dared not stop praying for. Catherine, though discharged after the birth, spent nearly every moment by the incubator. She sat in a pale green armchair, her eyes fixed on her daughter, as if her gaze could lend her strength. Her own health remained fragile, but she refused to rest at home. "I need to be here," she told William one morning when he tried to persuade her to return to the palace for a full night's sleep. William didn't argue. He understood that for Catherine, being with their baby wasn't just a mother's duty, it was how she clung to hope. He was no different. Each day after fulfilling royal duties, he rushed back to the hospital where he and Catherine took turns keeping vigil. They spoke little, but their presence was enough to soothe the waves of anxiety crashing within them. Outside, the world moved on. Annual royal events, from charity award ceremonies to diplomatic receptions, continued as usual, capturing the public's and media's attention. No one suspected that in a quiet hospital corner, another story was unfolding. The press still speculated about Catherine's absence, but the royal family's tight information lockdown ensured no accurate rumors leaked. The princess is recovering from surgery was the official line, and the public, though curious, seemed to accept it. But in Catherine and William's hearts, there was no room for the world's curiosity. Each day brought small but profound moments. Once, when Catherine gently touched the baby's tiny hand through the incubator, the baby stirred as if responding. "You feel me, don't you?" Catherine whispered, tears falling silently. William, standing behind her, placed a hand on her shoulder, silent, his own eyes glistening. The doctors, though cautious, began offering glimmers of hope. "She's making progress," the lead doctor said one afternoon, as Catherine and William sat in the consultation room. "Her respiratory system is strengthening, and she's gained a little weight. But we still need time. She's still very fragile." Catherine nodded, squeezing William's hand under the table. The words, though not a promise, were like a gentle breeze through the barren desert of their hearts. During long hospital nights when William had to return to the children, Catherine often sat alone. She pulled out a small notebook where she wrote unsent letters to her fighting child. "My darling, you are my light, even as tiny as you are. Be strong, okay? Mummy and Daddy are waiting for you." The words, written in blue ink and sometimes smudged by tears, were her way of holding on to faith. William, though he didn't voice it, carried his own scars. One evening, sitting by the incubator, he whispered to the baby, "You know, I used to think I was strong, But you're the one teaching me what strength really is." He smiled, but the smile faded as he turned away, hiding a quiet sob. In those waiting days, they learned to live with uncertainty. They didn't dare dream of the future, didn't dare imagine holding their child without tubes or machines. But they didn't give up. Each heartbeat, each doctor's progress report gave them reason to keep fighting. Early winter light filtered through the high windows of St. Mary's Hospital, casting a soft golden glow over the intensive care unit. Nearly 2 months had passed since the fateful night when Catherine and William's tiny daughter was born, and this room had become an inseparable part of their lives. But today, the atmosphere was different. Gone were the stifling tension and anxious glances at the monitors. In their place, a quiet, almost sacred joy was spreading. Catherine sat by the incubator, her hands clasped, her eyes never leaving her daughter. The baby girl, now heavier, her skin rosier, lay peacefully in a tiny white blanket. The tubes that once wrapped her body were fewer, and the breathing tube had been replaced by a small oxygen mask. Each breath, though still delicate, was proof of a miraculous journey no one had dared dream of just weeks before. The lead doctor, Dr. Elizabeth, entered, a rare smile breaking through her usually stern demeanor. "Your Royal Highness." "Your Highness," she began, her voice warm. "I have good news. The baby is stable enough to leave intensive care. We'll move her to a regular recovery room, and if all goes well, you'll be able to hold her without the incubator in a few days." Catherine blinked as if afraid to believe what she'd heard. She turned to William, standing beside her, his hand gripping her shoulder. "Really?" she asked, her voice trembling, as if a louder word might shatter the moment. William, his eyes shining, nodded to the doctor, as if needing to confirm the joy swelling within him. "Yes, Your Royal Highness," Dr. Elizabeth replied, her gaze softening. "She's a fighter, and you both have given her the strength to make it through." When the doctor left, Catherine broke into tears, not of fear or helplessness, but of pure, unfiltered happiness, the tears of a mother rediscovering light after months of darkness. William wrapped her in his arms, holding her tightly, and for the first time in so long, he let his own tears fall freely. "She did it, Kate," he whispered, his voice rough. "She made it." The next day, the moment they'd longed for arrived. In the recovery room, under the watchful eyes of a nurse, Catherine was allowed to hold her daughter for the first time, without the barrier of glass, without tubes or machines. The baby, so small in her arms, was warm and soft, stirring slightly, her eyes still closed, but as if sensing her mother's warmth. Catherine leaned down, kissing her forehead, her tears falling onto the white blanket. "You're my miracle," she whispered, her voice choked. "Thank you for staying." William stood beside her, one hand resting gently on Catherine's back, the other brushing the baby's tiny hand. He said nothing, but his eyes spoke volumes: gratitude, love, and a quiet pride for the 2 women in his life. In that small hospital room, time seemed to stop. There was no royal family, no public pressure, only a small family bound by love and the trials they'd overcome. They named her Eleanor, a name meaning radiant light, reflecting how she had illuminated hope in their darkest days. Eleanor, though still needing medical monitoring, had crossed the fragile line of survival. Each time she opened her eyes, even briefly, Catherine and William saw a whole world in them, a world of dreams, of tomorrows they now dared to believe in. As Catherine held Eleanor, she felt a new strength within her. The months of anxiety, the endless nights of prayer, had all led to this moment. She looked at William, smiling, and for the first time in ages, her smile was complete, unshadowed by fear. London's winter brought biting winds, but inside a small hall at Kensington Palace, the atmosphere was unusually warm. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, casting soft golden light on ancient walls. Today, a modest press conference was held, free of pomp or elaborate royal protocol. Only Catherine and William stood together before a carefully selected group of reporters, ready to share a story they'd kept secret for months. Catherine, in a pale blue knit dress, looked elegant yet approachable. Her health had greatly improved, though traces of fatigue lingered on her face. Beside her, William, in a simple gray suit, held her hand, his gaze steady but brimming with emotion. Before them, the reporters sat quietly, pens and recorders, ready, unaware of what they were about to hear. William spoke first, his warm voice filling the silent room. "Thank you all for being here today. We want to share joyful news, something our family has been waiting and praying for. In October, Catherine and I welcomed our fourth child, a girl named Eleanor. A soft murmur rippled through the room. Reporters exchanged glances, surprised but maintaining professionalism. William gave a small smile, continuing. Eleanor was born prematurely and her first months were a challenging journey. But today we're thrilled to announce that she's strong enough to come home with us. Catherine stepped forward, her hand gently tightening around William's for strength. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the faces in the room, not with a princess's confidence, but with a mother's sincerity. We chose to keep Eleanor's pregnancy and birth a secret. She began, her voice soft but clear. Not because we wanted to hide, but because some things are so fragile that only love can protect them. She paused, her eyes glistening, but her smile held steady. Eleanor is our miracle, but the journey to her was not easy. There were days we didn't know if she would make it, nights when we could only hold hands and pray. We needed space to focus on her, on our family, and we hope you'll understand why we stayed silent. The room fell silent. No reporter jumped to ask questions, as if caught in the emotion of Catherine's words. A few quietly wiped their eyes, moved by the rare honesty from a royal. William looked at her, his gaze filled with pride and love, as if she just voiced the weight they'd carried for so long. Finally, a reporter raised a hand, her voice cautious. Your Royal Highness, was your own health at risk during this pregnancy? Did that influence your decision to keep it private? Catherine nodded, unflinching. Yes, this pregnancy was dangerous, not just for Eleanor, but for me. But we didn't want the public's worry to add to what we were going through. We wanted to protect our daughter, and I think any parent would do the same. Her answer, simple yet powerful, touched everyone in the room. Gone were the probing questions, the sharp curiosity typical of royal press conferences. Instead, reporters asked gentler questions about Eleanor's name, about how her siblings reacted to her. Catherine and William answered with smiles, sharing small stories, like how Charlotte drew a picture for her sister, or how Louis kept asking when he could play with the little baby. As the press conference ended, news of Eleanor spread like wildfire. Major papers from The Times to The Guardian published heartfelt articles, not just congratulating, but expressing understanding and respect for Catherine and William's choice. On social media, people in the UK and beyond sent thousands of messages, not to argue or scrutinize, but to share joy and empathy. Thank you for sharing your story, one wrote. Eleanor is a light for us all. Spring sunlight filtered gently through the trees in Kensington Palace's gardens, where roses were beginning to bloom, filling the air with sweet fragrance. In the family's cozy room, Eleanor, now 5 months old, lay in a small wooden crib, her big round eyes curiously watching the glittering wind chimes above. Her giggles rang out as Catherine shook a rattle, a clear, joyful sound that seemed to banish the shadows that once enveloped their family. Catherine, having regained much of her strength, sat by the crib, her face radiant with a newfound peace. The hospital days, the sleepless nights of worry now felt distant, but their lessons were etched deep in her heart. She looked at Eleanor, her heart swelling with gratitude for this tiny miracle, and a quiet resolve she wanted to give her daughter a different life, a childhood free from the royal spotlight. William entered carrying a cup of tea for Catherine and a picture book for the children. He'd resumed his busy schedule, but every spare moment was for his family. Seeing Catherine and Eleanor, he smiled a smile both tender and meaningful. She's laughing again, he said, sitting beside Catherine, gently touching Eleanor's tiny hand. She might just be the funniest one in the family. Catherine laughed, her eyes sparkling. I hope so. I want her to grow up with lots of laughter, not the pressures we've faced. They discussed this often in quiet nights after the children were asleep. Eleanor, unlike George, Charlotte, or Louis, would be raised in a less public environment. Catherine and William agreed that though a royal Eleanor deserved a simple childhood, running in gardens, painting, playing without cameras lurking. They didn't want her growing up under the weight of headlines or a kingdom's expectations. I was thinking, Catherine said, her voice thoughtful, we could take her to Norfolk more often. Anmer Hall is where the kids can always be themselves. Eleanor needs that too. William nodded, his eyes lighting up at the thought of their countryside home in Norfolk, where the family had their happiest moments. I agree, and I've told the media team Eleanor won't appear at official events until she's older. We'll let her decide when she's ready. This decision wasn't easy. The British royal family had traditions, expectations that even William, as heir to the throne, had to navigate. But after Eleanor's challenging journey, they both realized their family mattered more than any protocol. Kensington, though still a royal symbol, was now also a home where the laughter of 4 children echoed, where Catherine and William found life's true meaning. One afternoon, as the family gathered in the garden, George, Charlotte, and Louis vied to play with their sister. Charlotte, with a big sister's gentleness, placed a tiny flower crown on Eleanor's head, beaming. "You're my flower princess," she declared, making everyone laugh. Louis, not to be outdone, ran to grab a small ball, trying to make her giggle. George, more reserved, stood by Catherine, quietly asking, "Mummy, will she be healthy forever?" Catherine hugged her son, kissing his forehead. "She'll be healthy, my love, and we'll always be together to protect her." As the sun set, painting the garden in golden, William and Catherine sat on a wooden bench, watching the children play. Eleanor, in Catherine's arms, yawned, her eyes slowly closing. "Have you ever thought," Catherine said softly, "that we'd have a day like this? A day when everything feels so peaceful?" William smiled, pulling her close. "I hoped. And now I know that no matter what happens, we'll always find a way to have days like this." In the twilight, Kensington Palace was no longer a symbol of power, but a haven where a family's love and simple miracles had triumphed over every challenge. Eleanor, with her innocent smile and bright eyes, was living proof, a different beginning filled with hope and love. Like, share, and subscribe to spread this heartfelt story, and stay tuned for more incredible journeys.